Hey friends, have you ever been in a situation where you're like, I have heard this story so many times, and yet something sticks out so apparent for you, and you're like, whoa, I have to write that down. So my son and my son's almost 15. I cannot believe that. We're not going to go on that story and on that trail because I might cry. But anyway, that just means I'm older, y'all. So but my son and I took him to go volunteer at this organization, and they do an event called Church in the Garden, and they do it monthly. And so I love taking my kids to things that show them people that are less fortunate. And so Church in the Garden really focuses and gears their services towards people that are homeless, people that are out of prison and they don't have a place to go or they don't feel comfortable going to an actual church building. And so they have church right on their property, and it's a beautiful location. It's an amazing location. And I have a really great relationship with the owners of this organization in our town. It's actually called Wear Gloves Inc. And so if you ever want to look it up and see, what they're doing in our community, you have interest, like get a coffee subscription while you're on their website. They have a roasting center, and that roasting center provides jobs for other people. They're an amazing organization. And so normally I don't do plugs for people, but they're a 501c3. So support them. They're amazing. They're doing great things for the homeless community and people that are trying to transition back into community. And so I just love taking my kids to things like that and having them experience things like this. I wish I would have volunteered more when I was younger, but I can instill that into my children now, and they'll be great great parts of the community, right, as they age into community and live on their own. And so I just love that. And introducing them to community service and serving others is a super important biblical foundation that I just want for them, because serving others actually blesses you more than it blesses the person that you're with. And so not that you don't want to bless them like tenfold, right? But it's just such a great way to practice and live. It's a lifestyle. Living for Christ is a lifestyle, right? We shouldn't just go to church on Sundays and read our Bible once a week, right? It's a lifestyle. We should be actively seeking after him and what he has for us every day of every moment of every day. And so anyway, going back to reading a story or hearing a story, and you're like, wow. So Pastor Josh that was there was talking about God as our creator. And he mentioned that he was colorblind, and he used himself as an example how even though he's colorblind, he still enjoys looking at the flowers. And in the word, it talks about us being more valuable than the flowers in the field, and that they are clothed more beautifully than Solomon. Solomon was the king that had a lot of things in this world whenever he was king. And so anyway, he talked about that, but then he went to the story about creation, Genesis 1. And he read through that chapter. And for those of us that have been in church for any length of time, we know the creation story. But something that jumped off the page at me after I have been studying more about the abundant life and how I want to help women, that's what I do. I'm a life coach and I help women. And I just want to help women to be able to see the abundant life that God has for them. And the thing that jumped off the page so much to me, I'm going to pull up, I had closed my phone. I apologize, but I had this verse pulled up. But it's Genesis 1, verse 20. And I'm reading out of New King James Version. I will read a couple of versions for you. It says, "Then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." And then it goes on to say, the waters abounded, right? God called it and they abounded. Be fruitful, multiply, later in verse 22. Fill the waters in the sea, multiply, right? All these things are just abundance, abounding in abundance. And one of the other verses that Pastor Josh mentioned was John 10:10. I use that verse a lot because I love that this verse talks about the abundant life that God promises us. But what I loved and what God just really made apparent for me is that we should be abounding with abundance, because God gives to us and overflows into us. It says in another part of the Bible that our cup overflows. I think that's in Psalm 23. let me look that up real quick. And I know I'm recording you guys. It's okay. It's not a problem. Let me go to King James, because I'm pretty sure that's the verse that I have on my cup. In Psalm 23, and that is it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And it goes on to say in verse 5, the last part, so 5 part B, thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. I have a cup that one of my girlfriends gave me. It's one of my favorite mugs that I drink coffee out of, but my cup runneth over. God has, from the beginning of time, has wanted our lives to be abounding with abundance. Abound with abundance, the word says. And in this scripture, he was talking about the ocean. But in all of creation, he said that we were the crowned part of creation, right? That we are the ones that he really wanted to have a relationship with and focus on. When he created man, he said it wasn't good for man to be alone. And so he created woman. And so we, as male and female, are to be abounding with abundance in this world. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I just take certain words. Sorry, my dog is under me and I don't want to roll over her tail. But there are words that just stick out in the word. And when this happens to you, and it could be anything, but it's primarily that's how God speaks to us primarily, is through his word. And I know that some people hear him in the still small voice, and we do, and we should. Some hear it in a shout in their dreams in the middle of the night, like I can't think of his name right now in the Bible. Was it Samuel? I don't know now. Oh gosh, it's terrible. I hate when I can't remember Bible stories. But when he was sleeping and God called him in his dreams, and I know I've talked with someone recently and she was like, God clearly said my name, woke me up in the middle of the night, and I was like, who called my name? And I'm like, that was probably God. So I love that God does that, but I can tell you that he primarily speaks to us through his word. And so, friends, when those words jump off the page like they did for me last weekend, when he said that God created things to abound with abundance, that's like over the top. That is our cup running over when God does those things. And so I just want to encourage you and remind you that when you're reading the word and God is speaking to you and he starts revealing things to you. So for example, years ago, when I was trying to figure out if I was supposed to leave one job and going to another job, and I was a little nervous about stepping out of the one nursing job that I have and go into another nursing job. And it was in hospice. And I was nervous. I was like, Lord, I don't know if I can do this, and not do it as a nursing skill, but do it so that I would provide the care that these dying patients would need, right? And so I'm like, Lord, can I give them the respect and the honor and the things that they need to give them dignity and respect in their last stages of life, so that it would honor them but honor you, God? Like, can I do that? Right? We go through these periods of our life when we wonder if we're enough, if we're going to give what we need to, to do the work of the kingdom and advance the kingdom the way we need to. And I'm going to tell you that it was a little, I don't want to say scary or afraid, because I try not to be scared or afraid, right? I did live with fear for a long time. That's another topic for another episode. And I have spoke on the fear that crippled me for so long. But I'm going to tell you in this episode that I finally realized, after God revealed to me certain things over time, and he does that for me. So for me personally, when God speaks to me, he'll show me things repetitively, and I'm like, oh, I think I need to pick up on that, because he knows me. God knitted me in my mother's womb. He knows every fiber of my being, right? Every cell of every 37.2 trillion cells of my body. Like, that's how many cells they think we have in our body, the average, whatever. And so I just want you to know that when God speaks to you, he'll make it very clear. And so, to end this story with the hospice thing, I got a coffee mug for a birthday or something that my mom gave me. It had a butterfly on it. I got a Christmas gift from my doctor's office. It had a butterfly ornament. I got a helmet when my husband and I had our motorcycle together. I was the rider, he was the driver. Whenever he bought me a helmet and he didn't tell me what he was getting me, and it had butterflies on it. Now, I know that that wouldn't mean anything to some people, but for me, knowing that going into hospice meant that I was working for a company where their logo was a butterfly. And I was praying, God, should I take this job? Is this what you want me to do? And he kept showing butterflies to me. It was pretty clear that I needed to step into this role. And I'm going to tell you, that was one of the most rewarding parts of my career that I have ever walked through, being a hospice nurse for 8 years and offering love and hope and encouragement and peace and dignity and respect to these people that were living their last stages of life, because no one likes to talk about death and dying, you guys. No one does that. But it's all like 100% chance everyone's going to do it, but no one wants to talk about it. I'm like, I'm sorry, but we need to be talking to people that are dying, or making their stages to their dying process, because we want our brothers and sisters to go to heaven, right? Like, we want that. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic as well. Back to abounding with abundance. I want your life lived for God and abounding in abundance. Friends, focus on that. If that's something that you're like, I don't know if that's for me, look up abundance in the word and look it up and see the promises that God promises us. In Psalm 23, it says that our cups are going to flow over. They're going to overflow. And so look for that abundant life. And especially if you're a believer and you don't feel that abundance in your life, why not? Right? How can you see God in what you're going through, and what does he want you to learn from it? How can we see God, and what does he want you to learn from it? We all struggle, you guys. We all go through things that we don't want to go through, but we have to learn how to do it really well. It says in John 16:33 that we will have trials and tribulations, that we will, not if or maybe, that we will. And so get comfortable with the struggle, because if you read in the word, our brothers and sisters before us in history, they went through so much to serve our God, the one that we love, that did so much for us. We are so undeserving, so undeserving. And he did so much for us, so much that he said that he wants it to abound with abundance from the very beginning in the garden. I hope that this has brought you hope and encouragement. And I pray that you will go in the name of the Lord, and that you will serve him, and you will seek him, and you will find that abundant life that he promises you. Talk to you soon.